Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2005 Cadillac Escalade. Up front is a 6.0 liter V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this second generation Cadillac Escalade because it is so iconic and I've never driven one before. This vehicle has been on my review bucket list for a very long time, and I'm very excited to finally check it off here today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel, you can head on over to my website, zachpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 6-liter V8 under the hood, making 345 horsepower. Well, that's not a small number, and this was the upgraded engine available in the Cadillac Escalade. If you got the all-wheel drive Escalade, you got the 6-liter. Now, the 5.3-liter made 295 horsepower. It's not that much smaller, but the 6-liter was the top dog of this era. This is known as the LQ9 engine for you GM fans that love your engine codes. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic transmission. It's a very typical GM 4-speed auto, shared with pretty much all of this vehicle's platform mates, whether that be the Yukon, vehicles like that. So no news there. It's fine, it does the job. Last but not least about the drivetrain, like I mentioned with the engine, this is the all-wheel drive Escalade. However, you could find them in rear-wheel drive if that's something you either wanted or if you went with a lower trim level. So how does it feel to drive a second-gen Cadillac Escalade? Well, it drives like every other GMT 800 that I've driven. Like I said, the Tahoe, Yukon, all those vehicles, it drives the same because it shares most of the parts with it. However, you are going to get a lot more of a luxurious experience out of the Escalade. The creature comforts are really going to be the soft spot here, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the interior, but visibility is good. The 6-liter is quick. Along with that all-wheel drive, it gives you confidence in the snow, and overall, it's fantastic. I really understand the appeal of these vehicles back in the day and still modernly. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of gauges. Off to the left, I have my transmission temperature as well as tachometer. In the center, I get a speedometer. And off to the right, I get oil pressure, battery voltage, fuel, and water temperature. On the steering wheel, on the left, I have voice command, source, and program, my trip odometer and fuel economy information. And off to the right, I have my seek, volume, more information, and my back arrow. For that little gauge cluster readout, GM is very, very good about giving you tons of information for this, and I like that they do that. The overall steering wheel is nice. It does have this wood accent on it, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our headlight switches along with the gauge dimmer switches, rear wiper control, and fog lights. On the door, we have our get out feature along with our 2 different memory seat options, 2 different heated seat options, and our pedal adjustments to bring them further or closer to the driver. Then we have our power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. A lot of buttons going on over here in the Cadillac Escalade, and we also get a nice little wood accent on the door as well. Moving into the center, we do have the standard Escalade radio. This was shared with a lot of vehicles of this era from GM. It's fine. It does the job. It really doesn't hold up to modern stuff, but that's okay. I don't really expect it to. Then we do have our climate controls. I love seeing the dual zone climate. Very, very nice. I love these digital readouts that GM gave the vehicles. It just has a very nostalgic feeling to me. You know, this sort of bluish, greenish display with the temperature, the digital looking numbers. Really, really love that. Off to the right, I do have a climate control vent along with my parking sensors on and off and my traction control on and off. Both very nice features and were not standardized back in 2005, so really cool to see. Moving down the center console, first of all, we do have a little openable cubby. Love that. But then we have a really nice clock from this designer company. They did the Cadillac XLR interior. I always forget how to say it. Bulgari, I believe. Either way, it's very cool, and I love seeing analog clocks in cars because it's just a sign of classiness. Will I or do I read them while driving? Absolutely not. But It's cool. Then we have our CD player. We have a 6-disc CD player built in. And then we come down to the cigarette lighter and ashtray and our cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2nd gen Escalade, and I'm very happy to report that it does pass. Now, it doesn't sit all the way down at the bottom of the cup holder, and that used to be my criteria, but the bottle is in there snug. It hasn't been moving around while I've been driving the car, and so in my book, that deserves a pass. Then we get a giant center console. We have a 12-volt outlet in there along with some coin holders. And it's finished in this nice perforated leather up top. Moving on to the seats, they are power, memory, and heated. Pretty much anything I can ask for from a seat from 2005. This vehicle does very, very well. I really enjoy it. And just looking at them, they look comfortable, which can't always be said about modern seats. So this is still of that era of Cadillac that I love so much, that I grew up around. My grandparents had Cadillacs through the early 2000s, so I know this leather very, very well, and it just warms my heart anytime I see it or anytime I sit in it. However, speaking of seats, we do have another row of seating. The 3rd row has been removed, which we'll talk about in a second, but let's go do a backseat review of the Cadillac Escalade. All right, so we're in the back of the 2005 Cadillac Escalade, and I'll be honest, there's not as much knee room as I thought. My knees are hitting the seat in front of me, which this is my driving position. I could be nice and move up a little bit, but I don't feel any adjustments here on the seat. So I either have numb hands or there aren't any, which is a little bit unfortunate to feel. Headroom is great though, really love that. And down below here, I do have heated seats back here. Fantastic to see that. And I have radio options and climate options. I can change the temperature and fan speed from back here, where to send it. And I also have pop-out cup holders as well. So tons of features back here. The size just isn't what I expected, which happens in life, so that's totally fine. Now, I would be showing you a 3rd row because the Escalades were 3-row vehicles. However, this has had the 3rd row removed because this was a work vehicle for the last several years for Michael's Heating and Cooling Company. So this was his work truck for a while, and so that 3rd row was removed to fit equipment. However, I do want to note that this is the short wheelbase of the Escalade. You could also find a longer wheelbase Escalade, and that would give you a little bit more room, things like that. So just so you are aware, there are other options for wheelbase length of the Escalade. But let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space with that removed 3rd row, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the 05 Escalade, I do want to note that you can open up the rear glass with this button here. Open it up like that. And this is one of my favorite features in SUVs ever. Any SUV that can do this, I instantly love. So that is really nice to see. You can close it up here. There you go. Now you can reach down here, big handle, and pull up the trunk. Now, like I said, the 3rd row has been removed. You can see the hooks where that would be. And of course, there are mounts for seat belts and whatnot. But these are the floor mats. This car actually just got freshly detailed because it is for sale currently. And I do have a 12-volt outlet over here and some storage for the 3rd row over here. So really cool to see that. Some speakers. This does have a Bose sound system, which is pretty nice. But overall, here is the rear cargo space of a 2005 Cadillac Escalade. Now we gotta talk about the looks. And honestly, it's not a very super handsomely pretty vehicle, but it was designed by my favorite automotive designer of all time, Mr. Wayne Cherry, who designed all the other GMT 800 vehicles of the era and the GMT 900s as well. He also helped out on the Pontiac Solstice project, things like that. But you can't look at one of these and not recognize it immediately. These cars were so iconic in the era, and that's going to be my final talking point. But just visually, anytime I see one of these, I'm immediately transported back to 2002, 2003, watching any MTV video or movie or TV show, Robin Big, Pimp My Ride, MTV Cribs, whatever it was. There was an Escalade in the driveway, and it looked just like this. Probably not just like this. It was probably on huge spinners and hydraulics and had neon lights under it, but you get what I'm saying. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 2005 Cadillac Escalade? Well, it's nothing short of fantastic. I love driving these. I get a warm sense of nostalgia anytime I'm in something like this, and I'm just so happy to finally check the second-gen Escalade off of my list. It was a bucket list car for me, and so here I am finally doing it. But I want to talk about the cultural significance of this Escalade. In doing my research, there was an article, which I'll pull up here and credit the article here. I forget it off the top of my head while doing the audio, but they accredit over 200 different songs having referenced the Escalade in this era. This was a cultural phenomenon. And so yes, the Lincoln Navigator really started the luxury SUV game, but the Cadillac Escalade perfected it. It became an icon, and it surpassed the Navigator in nearly every feat. At least in my mind. I had a toy Cadillac Escalade that would play music. If I can find an image on Google, I have no idea what it was, but if I could find one, here it is. I had it in toys. I would always drive one in Need for Speed Underground 2. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition had one on the cover. Iconic doesn't even do this vehicle justice. I would be willing to say that this is probably one of the most famous SUVs ever produced. And so to be driving something so culturally important is always so fun to me. I love the Escalade. I was so excited to do this video. And if I'm being totally honest, you know, fofos I'm tripping, wood grain I'm gripping, catch me switching lanes with the paint tripping. You know, and I've said that for years. It's just cool to be in an Escalade. What can I say? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Michael for letting me take out his second-gen Escalade. This was actually his work truck for his heating and cooling company. Please reach out to Shadow Heating and Cooling if you're in the Chicagoland area and you need air conditioning work, heating work, whatever it is. Michael is one of the hardest working guys I've ever met. He is on call all the time, which is super frustrating for finding time to make reviews, but he is really dedicated to his work. He has gotten all of his use out of this Escalade. It's actually up for sale right now. And so please reach out with the phone number you see on the screen or the information found in the description below. If you have any heating or cooling needs, he's the guy to talk to, and you will not regret it. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.